The year was 2014. I was 19 and living out of home for the first time in my life. And How I Met Your Mother was coming to its dramatic and gripping conclusion. It was a significant doom flag for my childhood, having the show I'd grown up watching come to its end. I remember sitting there in my dorm room watching Ted raise that blue French horn for the final time and just feeling a great, overwhelming sense of dissatisfaction. And I wasn't the only one to feel this way. So why? I don't actually think the ending is that bad. It makes sense. It's just that it feels bad. It feels like a mistake, a cheat, to get two characters together that had moved long past the point of being together. But it wasn't. This was the plan the entire time. They even filmed this back during the second season. So why do we feel this way? Well, I think I have an answer to that if you'll just hear me out. First things first, let's establish the narrative perspective. How I Met Your Mother isn't told from the perspective of Ted telling his kids what happened. Now, I know what you're already typing in the comments section. What? And you'd kind of sort of be right, but also no. There's a few scenes that suggest otherwise. The first being sympathy of illumination. Hey kids, for this next part, I'm gonna pretend to be Robin is narrating.
So one time, Bonnie and I fucked.
Doesn't really make sense now, does it? There's a lot of little moments like this throughout the series that don't really make sense in a canonical way. I was actually pretty ready to count these as a structural sacrifice for narrative's sake. That was until the mermaid theory. You see, the errors appear before Ted mentions them. The actions happen before the narration kicks in. This suggests that all of this is happening in Ted's head. He's imagining and recalling these tales as he's telling them to his kids. This not only explains Robin's sequence in Sympathy of Illumination, but other scenes like Marshall time traveling in the episode The Window, as Ted just imagining these events whilst he's telling them. This also allows us to explain inconsistencies, like Barney never having a threesome, to definitely having a threesome, right back to apparently never having a threesome again in Zero False. These inconsistencies can be explained by Ted just misremembering the events, not hearing the truth, or even the concept of him just remembering in the wrong order. Establishing the narrative's perspective is important, because not only does it establish how the characters are viewed, but who's viewing them. Every single character we see in the show, with the arguable exception of the kids and Ted and Robin in the very last episode, are all shown from the perspective of Ted. Barney might be a ladies' man with a plan, but I doubt he did anything as ridiculous as...
Listen to me, Cindy. I am Barney Stinson, and I am on an urgent mission from the future.
The future?
The future!
This is important to not only establish how the characters and stories are viewed, but how Ted views them. And as a result of this unique perspective, I feel like a lot of people sort of miss the point of the show. It's not a show about a hopeless romantic finding love. How I Met Your Mother is a show about somebody learning about the realistic elements and dynamics of love. We're constantly presented in media with the unconquerable idea of love. No matter what obstacles we face, everything will work out. That love is something worth fighting for. The issue is, these texts rarely question what you're fighting. I would argue that How I Met Your Mother is a direct critique of these texts. Over the course of the first 8 seasons, we see Ted do a lot of terrible things. But because of the narrative perspective, we don't see them as terrible things. We see them as steps and lessons on Ted's incredible journey of love. But they are terrible things. In the first season, Ted meets a girl who pretty much immediately makes it clear she doesn't want to be with him. So he spends the entire season crossing the boundary she just established and kind of pressuring her into dating him. Then after one of the bigger attempts, she says she needs some time to think. So he forces an ultimatum on her, which she declines. Then he just goes back to pressuring her till he eventually gets what he wants. Now, I know some people might get angry at my phrasing there, but that's pretty much exactly what happens, just with the quest for love element removed. And he doesn't just behave this way with Robin. He does this with all of his partners on the show, till the mother. Ted's more obsessed with the idea of love than his actual partner. He doesn't seem to understand that realistically, you actually have to match with somebody in order for you to be with them. Robin being the ultimate demonstration of this. Robin is somebody who, for the majority of the show, Ted can't be with. In order for Ted to end up with Robin, one of them would have to sacrifice their dreams. Robin doesn't want kids. Full stop. She wants to travel the world while focusing on her career. Ted wants to settle down, get married and have kids. Their two futures are incompatible, and one of them would have to let go of their dreams, which the show demonstrates that Ted has incredibly difficulty doing. If they got together in the first 8 seasons, they wouldn't have worked out, and they would have likely ended up resenting one another. Ted spends that final season letting her go. But that's also why him and the mother work out. He's not running around making these grand romantic speeches explaining why he's destined to be with people, but actually stopping and listening to his partner's needs, which in my opinion is much more loving and caring. This isn't me saying he's no longer romantic or proactive. At the train station, he still needed to get up and talk to her. It's just now his romantic gestures better reflect his partner than himself. But that's also why the ending didn't feel good. We spend the entirety of the show learning a lesson, only for the main character to end up with a symbol of that lesson. Don't get me wrong, I understand the logistics of this, and how they're both in a place where they can actually be together. But I don't think it's a logistics thing. It's a feeling. And it's difficult to ignore feelings built up over an entire series. Anyway, that's my thing, and that's why I think people didn't like the ending. If you disagree with me, write it in the comments below. I'd be happy to talk about it. Also, if this video gets enough likes, I'll use consequentialism to explain how Barney and Ted are the exact same person. Otherwise, if you like this video, please share, like, and subscribe. It would mean the literal world to me.